the more I learned, the more I realized, like, I don't know anything. And just like sometimes I'm just like, Lord, I don't know why you trusted me with this, whether it's like being a mom or whatever it is, but thank you. Help me get through it. Where sometimes, like, it's almost like this out of body experience where you feel like you just feel held. You feel that comfort, like a parent that just is like, let me wrap you up in this big hug. So I'm like, every step that I take with him, to me, is a miracle.
Wow. I'm just blown away by the number of people who have liked, followed, or even subscribed to Seen, Heard, Imagined. I wanted to take this opportunity to be very clear. Seen, Heard, Imagined is a space where spiritual seekers of all kinds are welcome. While inspired by my Christian faith and scriptures like 1 Corinthians 2:9, this brand isn't confined to one religion. It's for anyone longing to feel spiritually connected, emotionally grounded, and deeply known. Whether you call it God, Spirit, the divine, or you're still searching, this space honors your journey. I'm looking forward to providing you with positive and affirming content and products that connect you with our Creator.
Promoting connectivity to our Creator. Seen, heard, imagined.
Hi, my name is Michelle Francine. Welcome to this spiritual podcast, Seen, Heard, Imagined. Today, I wanted to address the question, how do we find the creator of our universe? And to help me address that question, I am very excited to bring Miss Rochelle Simpson to the podcast, a fellow voice actor, spiritual sister. Yes, welcome. And just a little bit about you. You say that there are two things you love most in the world besides your husband and children. It is learning and laughing. And the more you learn, the more you realize just how little you know. And the more you need to just laugh it all off. I really love that. Yeah. I
Thank
imagine
you.
you've run into
Yes.
a lot of challenges, things you didn't know, didn't realize, mishaps, missteps. And you're only human, right? You're only human.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember hearing a professor once that said she was like, I think she was in her PhD program, and she was just like, the more I learned, the more I realized, like, I don't know anything. And, it always stuck with me, and you hear that often now. And yeah, I'm just like, but I can't help it. Like, I love to learn whatever I can about everything. Um, I find everything fascinating, but it's also just kind of like, it's so humbling that you have to laugh it off. And, if you remember our Clubhouse, we did a lot of things just to invoke laughter because who
Yeah.
doesn't like laughing?
Yeah, absolutely. I so appreciated just stepping in whenever I could into that Clubhouse podcast and just, hear you guys riff and talk about the voiceover industry and the community as a whole. I love that. So, Rochelle, can you tell us, what does Christianity look like in your life?
Mm. You know, um, it shows up, I think. I mean, there are the things, like I have a church that I'm a part of and a women's group and it's just a tiny church that I've been a part of for the last 15 years. And I think that's shaped a lot of how I approach my faith throughout
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
Um, because it's so, they just really, there's a huge emphasis on just a daily life with the Lord, just a walk, from the moment you wake up, that you're just having this conversation with him constantly. And I find
Mhm.
myself more in that space lately. Just it is, when I have my Bible time in the morning, from like, all right, Lord, like when I'm having a rough time, we had a really rough year last year. And it was literally like, okay, Lord, I got to get out of bed now.
Yeah.
Okay, be with me as I make my coffee. Like it's just like these little things, but you're just every step you're walking and asking for grace and seeking him constantly because it's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I would agree. I think that in the last 2 years, constant conversation is very necessary. It's very
Mhm.
necessary. It keeps me grounded. Um, it just keeps me in a space of being able to better handle and cope with whatever challenges might come up in my day. Hey, the maker might break, and I need to keep
Yeah.
it together. I need to keep it together. I need to watch
Right.
what comes out of my mouth after that. I got to be concerned about, how I'm communicating with my husband or my friends or what have you. And the more I have internal conversations with him, the more grounded I feel. And I think it's something that we all have to kind of mature into.
Mhm.
Society might say that it's not so great that you're kind of talking to this invisible something or somebody. So, I know it's a
Right.
mental thing, it's an internal thing, but I think it's very necessary, especially in today's world.
Totally. Totally.
Hmm.
It is. And it's not, I mean, I think when you're not a believer, it's really hard to get it. So this is, if I'm approaching someone who's not a believer, I would have a totally different conversation than I would somebody who I know is, has a mature walk with the Lord and they're at like, a certain place with their faith.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And sometimes it's out loud. I mean, girl, like if my neighbors heard me,
What's the most recent thing you've said out loud to where it's like, oh my gosh, if the neighbors heard me, they wouldn't know what to do.
I don't even know, just like all kinds of, I don't know, whatever it is. Just like sometimes I'm just like, Lord, I don't know why you trusted me with this, whether it's like being a mom or whatever it is, but thank you. Help me get through it.
Yes. Just pacing the
I'm just,
floors, just talking to
yeah,
yourself,
yeah,
talking to him. Yeah,
mm,
yeah.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that. Thank you. You've mentioned that you see miracles every day, and I'm curious about these miracles. Can you share some of those with us?
Yeah, like, I don't feel like I've had a road to Damascus experience. I think
Mhm.
some people look for, like, this big grand gesture from the Lord, and I'm sure that it happens for a lot of people. I feel like when I look at things and I'm like, "This only makes sense because of divine creativity." The way that flowers grow, the way that the birds are fed, the things that are in Scripture. And it's in those little moments that I'm just like, "God is so good." And sometimes it's like these things where I feel like the Lord, he meets you where you're at. So he knows I have a sense of humor. And sometimes I'm just laughing at like, something that happened like just the other day. So I'm at Costco, right? I check out and they got to check your receipt before you leave the store.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at my receipt and I'm like, I don't think they got, this case of black beans because they were on like the back of the cart. And I'm like, I gotta go back. I don't wanna walk back. You know? And at this point, I'm like talking through it and I'm like, it's not about the money. I'm just like, I'm so tired. And it was funny because I had this conversation with the Lord in my mind, like, Lord, like I just, like, I gotta pay for these beans. I don't wanna go back, and I know they're not gonna check the receipt. Like, they never really look. They just mark it
They
and you go.
don't. Yeah. Mhm.
I happened to walk by, like, the only guy that has ever actually looked at the receipt, and the first thing he said was like, "Oh, okay, you got black beans there," and then he starts looking, and he's like, let me keep check I don't see the black beans," and I was just like, "Okay, thank you for
Right.
not letting
Yeah.
me get away with this, thing." It
Yeah.
was just funny, but it was just in that moment, like, I knew it was the Lord because it was the first thing he said. I had, like, a full cart of stuff. So, anyway, it was just it you know, it was just a funny little thing where I was just like, "The Lord is looking out," and even these moments where you might trip up on yourself and your own
Mm.
humanness of just being exhausted or whatever,
Yeah.
where he wants you to stay on this narrow path, and he's gonna help you stay on it no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. He is so good at kind of like nudging us, just nudging us
Yeah,
back into the frame. And
right.
I hear you though, like Costco, Sam's Club, I mean, their parking lots are just acreage. It's like acreage, and the amount of hiking you did just to put everything into that cart. I don't blame you for being tired. I really don't.
Yeah.
I really don't.
It was funny. It was just funny because it was one of those things, I'm a sensitive person. I'm like, those little things weigh on me. Like, I know if I got in the car with those beans, I would have been thinking about it the whole
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. You would
So,
have felt convicted about it, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. Um, how are you in regards to finding God in, say, nature? Do you find him that? You mentioned flowers blooming, but
Mm.
what else in nature do you see him in?
You know, I mean, I don't, well, I mean, I live in a very suburban area. Well, I won't say, how do I put it? It's just an interesting place. Like, there are trails and things, but everything's like very man made around here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I call it manufactured beauty. Like, it's beautiful, but it's like not the nature that you would think of like in the forest.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just on those walks of just like kind of anything, really. I mean, looking at whether it's like how little insects and the birds and everything to me is from the creator. So I love to see that even though it's artificial, it still serves that, the environment. Um, and sometimes it's the weather, sometimes it's like the Lord in like there's a piece, about either the wind or the rain
Mm. Mm.
that it's just kind of like the Lord's way of, washing us clean,
Yeah.
of being there, and just his presence and just covering us in this tangible way.
I love that. I think rain is my favorite. Absolutely.
Oh,
One of my favorite ways in
I love
which I believe he does show up. Yeah. And it just signifies, like you mentioned, it's a cleansing. It is a really a cultivating of any seeds that are in the earth. It provides and develops life to us.
it.
It
Mm-hmm.
can mark the beginning or the end of seasons, just as our lives can as well. But
Mm-hmm.
being a California native and growing up in Northern California specifically, there are just tons of trails, just tons of forests. And that was one of my favorite things to do is definitely get out and hit a trail and utilize that time as my quiet time with God, seeing
Mm-hmm.
him in that manner.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. I feel like lately I've been feeling this call. Like, I mean, I still listen to my audiobooks, my podcasts and things, but I'm trying to be more intentional about like, hey, sometimes just listen. Like if you've always got something in your ears, how are you going to hear when he's
Yes.
trying to say something to you?
So true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to get in a space of just limited, little to no noise if possible.
Yeah.
Limiting that stimulus. And I feel like nature is the place for me. That is a place I like to go to find him. And,
Hmm.
sometimes that's where I get my best ideas or do my best problem solving. So,
Yes.
yeah, I feel very in tune with him when I'm out in the outdoors.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to these small miracles or places and spaces in which you see the creator, do you ever see him show up in people? If so, how?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. I mean, it's, I wish that I like constantly, like if I didn't have this ADHD brain where I forget everything, if I could just constantly walk around with a notebook and every time I mean, I will look like a crazy person, but sometimes they don't realize that they're like speaking, like I know it's the spirit speaking through someone
Mm.
for, whatever it may be. I mean, I was just talking through kind of an issue with a friend earlier and it was just like, I don't know if she realized how much I needed to hear that. It was like, whether it's just something I've been praying about, um, and not knowing kind of what the answer is, and it just comes, and sometimes
Mm.
it's from someone who's not even a believer, and I'm like,
Mhm.
it's just, almost like the secret thing, like, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you
Yeah.
mentioned, he knows your character. He knows that you're a very humorous person. And so I think he's great at talking to each individual child in a manner in which he knows that they will receive him. Some of his
Yes.
children are really hard-headed, okay? And, I think that sometimes we have to really fall or really fail or experience rejection or enough embarrassment or what have you before we become receptive to his voice or in the ways
Mm.
in which he communicates, the ways he shows up, whether it's in nature or people or, in Costco. Um, and then I think that's our opportunity to kind of recognize that once we kind of reach out and say, "Listen, I don't have it all together. Can you talk to me?" I think a lot of times we start to realize that, you know what? He's been talking to me all along.
Mhm.
He's been talking to
Oh,
me all
yeah.
along. It's just that I wasn't in a space to receive. And
Yeah.
so, as you mentioned, just the concept of a mature Christian or an experienced Christian, that's a level of discernment that really needs to be worked at. And that's the listening and recognizing and seeing him in
Mhm. And
all of his
the
creation.
desire, right?
That
Of
desire does need to be there. The heart, yeah, I agree. The heart needs to be
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, all of what you just said, because I definitely feel that. It's so we get in these spaces sometimes where we're like, asking like, "God, please give me a, give me a sign, give me answer this question. I don't know what to do. Like, what please solve this puzzle for me." And he's like, "It's been right here, but apparently you need to be
Mhm.
like hit over the head with it."
Mhm.
You know?
Right.
I'm going to let you fall into this thing because then you're going to know, you like when you follow some kind of darkness, you're like, "Oh, man," like, you don't even realize what the absence of light does to your soul, and you immediately wanna seek it back out.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that is so true. That is so true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wondering if recently has there been you've provided a couple examples already, Costco and, speaking with a girlfriend recently this evening, but maybe more personally, more deeply as you feel comfortable, has there been a small moment in which you've experienced closeness as a result of recognizing him or seeing him, finding him?
Mm. Yeah, I think so. It's hard to describe things that are so, like, deeply personal
Sure.
that it's, that I struggle to articulate it, but Um, definitely these moments where sometimes, like, it's almost like this out of body
Mm.
experience where you feel like you just feel held,
Mm.
you feel that comfort like a parent that just is like, "Let me wrap you up in this big hug," you know? Um, yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but it's kind of like in these moments, and it happens to me all the time now, especially just lately, like I've said, over the last year, it's been like where, like a child clinging on to their parent, like, "Please, like, just get me through this, bit," or whatever it is, and, um, yeah, I just feel him. I feel like every moment, like, every step, every time I move forward, it's like this miracle because he's just right there, and I'm like, "Oh, okay," I'm still going.
Mhm.
Like, I
Yeah.
haven't failed yet. I haven't, like, done this crazy, completely gone off by the wayside, so I'm like, every step that I take with him, to me, is a miracle.
Mhm. He's been hugging you. He's been
Mm,
spiritually hugging you.
yeah.
Do you think you would feel his embrace as much if you didn't have the daily conversations you've been having with him?
No,
Why
I
is that, do
don't.
you think?
I've experienced it. I mean, there have been times that not that I ever, like, fell away from my faith, but where
Mhm.
I wasn't intentional about it,
Right, yeah.
and there are still moments where I'm just like, "Oh, that was the Lord nudging me to, like, come back," to be closer to him, but yeah, in those times where it's just it's so easy, the enemy and the world, it's so easy to get caught up in things that are not of the Lord. It's everywhere around us. So it's so simple to just, be like, "Oh, yeah, it's just about work," or "It's just about whatever. I just wanna be the best parent." It could be so many things that are disguised as good, but they're not of the Lord, and in those times, it's easy to even convince yourself, like, "This is what the Lord wants for me," but which is
Yes.
right?
That
It's,
resonates deeply, yes. Mhm.
yeah, and that's, one of the reasons I've stuck with my church for so long is just I think it's so important that whoever you're receiving the word from, whoever you're learning from has an intimate relationship with the Lord themselves, but also they're reliable, like, in their word. I mean, some people, they preach out of emotion and passion. Um, where I've always felt like my pastor, it's like a history lesson. It's like he's so just his knowledge blows my mind, and it has for 15 years. It's just like, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about it that way." Like, just understanding the context and all of this stuff, because that's where the walk really, really deepens.
Yeah.
That's where you really are like, "I understand what the Lord is trying to tell me right now, and if I don't, I know how to ask him for it. I know
Mhm.
how to pray."
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, your pastor sounds like maybe a bit of a professor type, and mine is very similar, very much the same way,
Mhm.
and I appreciate that. Able to intellectualize the word, provide really good context, giving the
Mhm.
history. To me, that is so important, to deep dive on that. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's see, because you said something really poignant. Ah, yes. Okay. You mentioned that sometimes we get it in our heads that, oh, God wants me to do this thing.
Mhm.
Do you happen to have an example in which you've experienced that? Oh, God wants me to do this thing, but ultimately it might not have been something He actually was calling you to do, or it wasn't right maybe in the moment. Not that it was a bad
Yeah.
idea. It just wasn't right for right now, or frankly, just wasn't a part of His plans altogether.
I do. It's kind of well, it's hard to say that it was like, not that it was a mistake or anything like that, but it was
Mhm.
very much, it was, I guess the way I approached it was a little different, and it was voiceover, because I think it was very like, it was kind of like this. How do I put it? It was very interesting the way that came about it, and I don't know if you felt this way, but being a
Mm,
minority,
mm,
it was, my parents were immigrants. They were never like,
mm.
"Follow your dreams, do the thing you're passionate about," so it's
Yeah.
a different ball game for us.
Mhm. Yeah, get a job, stick to it, get paid well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we didn't bust our butts and come to America for you to go try this artsy thing. You know? So, but I was like, and I don't regret it, because I feel like it led me down a lot of interesting paths and things
Mhm.
that I don't think I would have reached otherwise, or I don't know how I would have gotten to where I'm at now without that experience. But I think, pressing as hard as I did and just being like, "Oh man, I really gotta do this thing." Like, the Lord wants me here, obviously,
Yeah.
because like certain things were lining up, and I was like, that's clearly, it's like there's a path, but then it became so obvious that it wasn't.
Mhm.
Um, and I was just like, this was a while back that I was just like, it's there for me. And like, like I've told you before recording, I still do it, but I don't pursue it as wholeheartedly. Like, it's not, I don't have my stock is in the Lord. It's not
Mhm.
in achieving it, this or anything.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, but it was, like I said, it's so easy for us to be like, "Oh, that's God.
Yeah.
He put me here,"
Yeah.
and convince yourself. And when you hear outside opinions saying, "No, that might not be it,"
Mhm.
which I didn't get necessarily directly,
Mhm.
but there were definitely times that I was just like, "Oh, they don't know what they're talking about," you know?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
you get like this closed heart where you're just like, not accepting what the Lord's trying to tell you. And he's like, you want to learn the hard way? You're going to learn the hard way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your heart does kind of harden a little bit and these little defenses come up. And it's just the human nature in us. I don't think we have this,
Right.
super mal like mal intent towards God, but by our very natures, we are going to rub up against what he wants for us compared to what we want or what we think.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Yeah, very
Yeah.
common issue. Very common issue. Mm. Do you have any closing thoughts on where we can find the creator of our universe?
Find him in silence.
Mm.
Just the moments where our loud, like our whole world is loud, chaotic. It's a lot. Take moments of just nothing and just ask him. I mean, like, even if it's out loud, if maybe when no one's around, but I really, really believe that, he says, ask and you shall receive. And when you want to hear him, he will show up. He'll show up
Mm.
in all of these ways, but I think, he wants us to seek him,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, Rochelle, thank you so much for joining me today and addressing this question around how and where to find God. And for me, I've realized and learned that silence is a good place to literally look and find him. I appreciate the silence and realize I need to sit still to hear from him, but yes. What a great way
Yeah.
to really literally find him. If we're intentionally seeking him out, he's going to meet us somehow. He shows up in the simple things like a message through a
Mhm.
friend. He shows up in our coffee making when we're having dialogue with him. He shows up in the flowers that are growing. He shows up in the rain and the wind. He's everywhere. He really is everywhere. And Rochelle, I also find that God has shown up in you. My creator has shown up in you. I've seen him in you
Mm.
because when I was going through a really, really rough season of caregiving for my mother, we really kind of met through LinkedIn, really met initially through LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And I believe at that time I had maybe done a podcast and had shared that story and maybe even had done an interview that I posted and shared online. You looked at it, you read it, and you acknowledged that. You said, "Hey, I know what that's like." And every now and then you would pop in and you would say, "Hey, make sure you're resting. Hey, make
Mm.
sure you're praying. Make sure that you aren't giving up on your particular hobbies and skills and desires. Don't
Yeah,
don't
I
let all that
remember
go."
you were going through it right then. I remember we were talking about it and it's a lot, but thank you for saying that.
Yeah, sure. And on this podcast, what I've been doing is collecting prayers, wishes, and hopes from one guest and passing them on to the next. So I wonder if
Mm.
you would be open to hearing the prayer that my previous guest had for you.
Oh, I would love that.
Okay. All right. So their
That is
prayer
such a
for
sweet
you.
thing.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Their prayer for you is that you will recognize that each moment of challenges or pain as God's building blocks for your victory. You are going to
Mm.
encounter obstacles, resistance, and trials that are intended to trip you up and cause you to be discouraged. But even though the enemy is intending for you to be discouraged, each of those challenges or pain points is nothing more than a chapter in a story that you are designed to tell. You are designed to tell that story so that others in your life can be saved.
Mm.
How does that sit with you?
Ooh. I'm not crying.
Yeah, totally. I don't know. I see a little,
No.
you look a little
I
glassy
know,
eyed though.
no. Maybe just a little. No, it's in things like that that was 110. I can't even tell you. Maybe later, maybe off recording. Uh, how how specific he is when he comes to you. You know, that
Mhm.
he's like, when he sends you a word from someone who I don't even know, um, it's just so good. He's just so good. Thank you
Yes.
for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I ask that you provide a prayer or a hope or a wish for my next guest. What would it be? Take
Absolutely.
your time. Take your time.
Let's think here. I pray for the next guest to feel so in their storytelling, in their speaking, just a confidence that the Spirit is working in them, that whoever is listening, whoever listens on the other end, wherever they are on the planet, that they know it is intentional, that the Lord is there, that the Lord speaks through them,
Mhm.
and that they seek him every single day and every little thing with confidence, with like gusto.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
gusto. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And Rochelle, if people are interested to get to know you better, learn more about you, how could they connect?
Well, I'm not on any socials other than LinkedIn at the moment.
Okay,
So
that's okay.
LinkedIn, and I'm not there very often. I just posted my first article the other day, so I've been wanting to do a little more of that, but
Mhm.
LinkedIn is the place.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure to include a link to your profile in the show notes. But thank you so
Okay.
much for joining me. This was so cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for tuning in to Seen, Heard, Imagined. I ask that you please consider sending a small donation to express your support and desire for content that draws you closer to our creator. To donate, visit our website or check out the link below. Thanks for watching and listening.